So, let's just call it what it is. The 2026 WNBA season is officially on life support. Not in a things are tense but we'll figure it out kind of way. No, this thing is done. And the wild part? Everyone's obsessing over the deadline, but that's not even the real story. The truth hiding underneath all this contract drama is way more sinister. And once you see it, you'll understand why some powerful people actually want the season to collapse. Sounds crazy, right? But hang tight, because the deeper we go, the uglier it gets. Time to face reality, guys. It is time to face reality. 2026 WNBA season is cooked. It's cooked where it's cooked like Thanksgiving food. It's all cooked. It is over. It's done. Finito. There will be no 2026 WNBA season. We're now just 2 days away from the October 31st cutoff, and still no extension signed. What's worse? The last time the WNBA went through collective bargaining negotiations, they sealed the deal 3 days before the deadline. We're already past that point, and all we're getting from both sides is crickets. The Players Association is digging in. The league office, scrambling behind closed doors like a fire drill they weren't prepared for. And while all this chaos unfolds, fans are losing their minds, especially the millions who tuned in last season just to watch Caitlin Clark rewrite basketball history. Think about it. The ratings exploded, ticket sales shattered every previous record, and Fever merch sold out faster than a Taylor Swift tour drop. Clark was the show. She single-handedly turned the WNBA into must-watch TV. But now, all that momentum, all that excitement could evaporate overnight. And here's where it gets dark, because there are actually people behind the curtain who benefit if the 2026 season doesn't happen. I'm not exaggerating. Follow the breadcrumbs, and it becomes painfully clear. Let's head to Carly Bell's Twitter. Shout out to her. She said, could have almost guaranteed that the CBA wouldn't be resolved by October 31st. I think we all pretty much could agree on that. However, with the recent public jabs from both the W and the Players Association, an extension could now not happen. It could not, it's not happening, you guys. In my opinion, I think it'd be foolish not sign an extension, but I understand what the power of not signing one can do. Listen. The ladies in the PA, an unrivaled Bree Stewart, Nafis Collar and all of them, they are feeling like they can hold the W's feet to the fire and force their hand to give them what they want. Carly Bell, a well-connected WNBA insider, dropped a bombshell on Twitter. She said everyone already expected the CBA talks to miss the October 31st deadline. But then she slipped in one line that changes everything. The extension might not happen at all due to recent public jabs. Translation. Things have gotten personal, because right before negotiations went off the rails, the WNBA Players Association mocked NBA Commissioner Adam Silver on social media. Yes, the same Adam Silver who controls most of the WNBA's funding. When you publicly humiliate the man signing your checks, what exactly do you expect to happen next? But that's just the surface. Carly's tweet mentioned something else, something about the power of not signing the extension. And that's where everything starts clicking into place. What power could possibly come from not playing basketball? None. Unless you follow the money. Enter Unrivaled, the shiny new 3-on-3 league that's been popping up everywhere lately. It's led by none other than Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, two WNBA stars, both vice presidents of the Players Association, and, conveniently, co-founders of this rival league. Talk about a walking conflict of interest, and the timing, impossible to ignore. The second WNBA talks start falling apart. Unrivaled starts heating up. Investors are pouring in millions. Players are signing contracts left and right. And if the WNBA season collapses in 2026, Unrivaled suddenly becomes the only game in town. No season, no extension is better for Unrivaled, because that's where all the players are going to be. You already know that players have already agreed to contracts with Project B. That's already out there. They've already been in negotiations and signed WNBA players. This is happening. The WNBA players don't feel like They need to sign an extension or they need to have a season unless the W is going to give them every single thing they want. They want to be able to go make money in Project B. They want to be able to make their money in Unrivaled, and they want to be able to make their money in the WNBA. Now, let's connect the dots. The players want to make money from 3 different sources: the WNBA, Unrivaled, and another up-and-coming international project called Project B, rumored to have massive Saudi backing. That's 3 separate leagues, 3 potential paychecks. But there's one problem. All of them operate during overlapping months. So, what's the easiest way to make sure they can have it all? Simple. Burn the WNBA calendar to the ground. Cancel the season, force the league's hand, and corner the owners into letting players bounce freely between leagues. It's not about solidarity anymore. It's about leverage. The players are betting that if they make things chaotic enough, the WNBA will eventually cave. It's corporate warfare disguised as a labor dispute. And yet, there's another bomb ticking quietly in the background: the federal gambling investigation. Yep, while this chaos is unfolding, the NBA is facing one of the biggest betting scandals in years. Multiple probes, federal oversight, the whole circus. Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner who also oversees the WNBA's finances, has a meeting with investigators on October 31st, the exact same day as the WNBA's CBA deadline. Do you think that's a coincidence? Please. If you're Silver and you've got billion-dollar NBA issues colliding with a league that still loses money every year, where's your focus going? It's not even a question. The NBA prints $10 billion annually. The WNBA scrapes by with around $200 million. If you're deciding which fire to put out, the math solves itself. And the players see that weakness. They know Silver's distracted. They know the league's vulnerable. So they're pressing harder than ever. They're treating this like a power vacuum. And they might actually win. But in the middle of all this political theater, one player is being used like a pawn. And she's the only one who actually elevated the league to this level in the first place. Caitlin Clark. Caitlin's name is suddenly everywhere. But not because people are celebrating her. They're using her. Nafisa Collier, co-founder of Unrivaled and supposed leader of the Players Association, can't stop dropping Clark's name in interviews and podcasts. Every soundbite starts with, Caitlin this, Caitlin that. But let's not forget the receipts. When Clark was being body-checked, elbowed, and targeted every night last season, where was all this sisterhood energy? Where were the statements about player safety? Nafisa said nothing. Complete silence. But now that Clark's global fame could bring credibility and sponsorships to her new league, suddenly she's full of praise. The hypocrisy is staggering. And to top it all off, Collier recently bragged about having private conversations with WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, talking about protecting Caitlin, honoring her impact, and supporting her journey. Touching words, right? Except none of it matches their actions, because if this strike goes through and the 2026 season gets cancelled, it's Caitlin Clark's momentum that dies first. It's her fans who vanish, her progress that's stalled, and her impact that gets buried under political games. The truth is, the people shouting about protecting the league's future are the same ones quietly setting it on fire for personal gain. Caitlin Clark herself admitted she had no idea any of this was happening until Nafisa Collier publicly dropped it in an interview. Just think about that for a second. Someone claims they're going to bat for you in private meetings with the commissioner, but they never once tell you about it, especially because Clark and Collier share the same agent. Instead, they go on stage, say your name, and paint themselves as your defender to the world. That's not advocacy. That's manipulation 101. It's all about optics. You latch onto the biggest star in the game, act like you're protecting them, and soak up all the goodwill that comes with it, without actually lifting a finger. It's cunning, it's calculated, and it's completely self-serving. They're using Caitlin's name like currency, clout disguised as compassion. Meanwhile, Caitlin's sitting there just trying to hoop. She's grinding, training, preparing for her 3rd season, only to watch her career get hijacked by people playing power games over her head. She didn't sign up to be the centerpiece of a political tug-of-war. She didn't ask to be the face of the league or the bait in a negotiation battle. But here she is, her future, her prime, her legacy, all hanging in the balance because a few people can't stop chasing headlines and side deals. Now, let's talk about what happens if October 31st comes and goes with no deal. What happens if there's no deal by October 31st? There are two paths forward if there's no deal in place by October 31st: an extension of the deadline or work stoppage. A temporary extension of the deadline to allow the two sides to continue discussing unimpeded is the most likely initial outcome, while I hope we make October 31st deadline, and that is a real deadline. From that perspective, we have extended deadlines in the past, Engelbert said during pre-WNBA Finals press conference. But the fact of the matter is, you guys, when it comes to these extensions, they only sign an extension when both sides agree that they are mutually coming to an agreement in the near future. There are two roads ahead, one that could save the league and another that could burn it to the ground. Path 1, an extension. That's what everyone's hoping for, right? It's the same thing that happened last time. The players and the league agree to keep talking, push the deadline back, and act like they're making progress. It sounds diplomatic, it sounds hopeful. But extensions don't happen because people are calm. They happen because both sides actually believe a deal is close. You don't delay a fight unless you think peace is possible. Now, do we see any sign of that right now? Any mutual goodwill? Any shared optimism? Not even close. In fact, the two sides are further apart than ever. Players are openly calling out the league, saying their concerns are ignored and their ideas dismissed. The WNBA front office, on the other hand, is accusing the Players Association of flat-out lying, of using social media to manipulate fans and twist the narrative. That's not how deals get done. Which brings us to Path 2, the dreaded status quo period. That's the limbo where the old deal expires, but nobody officially strikes or locks anyone out yet. It's like a relationship that's already over, but neither side wants to say it out loud. Everyone pretends things are fine, until they're not. Because once that limbo drags on long enough, someone eventually breaks. Either the owners call for a lockout, barring players from stepping foot on the court, or the players go nuclear with a strike. And guess what? The stage is already being set. The league's pulling in political muscle, big names, even rumored future governors, to put pressure on the players' side. The message is clear. If a strike happens, it's not the league's fault. It's the players being unreasonable. Classic PR spin. But the players aren't blinking. They're confident. Maybe too confident. And that's when it all comes back to the money. Follow it, and everything starts making sense. Nafisa Collier has already secured millions in funding for Unrivaled. Investors are locked in. Contracts are signed. Promises have been made. That means she's not just playing basketball anymore. She's managing a business empire. So imagine this. You convince your backers to throw $20 million at your vision, promising them returns and media buzz, and then you turn around and say, actually, I'm going to focus on the WNBA this season. You'd get sued so fast your head would spin. So, to protect her investment and her image, Unrivaled has to win. It has to be the main attraction, not the side hustle. And what's the easiest way to ensure that happens? Eliminate the competition. No WNBA season means every spotlight, every endorsement, and every dollar flows toward Unrivaled. This isn't about equality or progress anymore. It's about consolidating power. And the saddest part, they're willing to take the entire women's basketball ecosystem down with them to do it. And the timing couldn't be worse. The WNBA was finally having its moment. After 25 years of financial struggle and lukewarm interest, the league was thriving. The 2024 season was a breakthrough. Ratings hit all-time highs. Attendance was up in every city. Corporate sponsors were flooding in. For the first time ever, it felt like women's basketball had crossed into mainstream relevance. And what triggered that momentum? One name, Caitlin Clark. She's not just a star, she's the reason casual fans started tuning in. She turned sleepy regular season games into must-watch events. She filled arenas that hadn't sold out in decades. She made little girls across America pick up basketballs for the first time. She inspired viral highlights, sold jerseys by the truckload, and dragged the entire league into the national conversation. And now, that entire movement is hanging by a thread because of greed and ego. Because people who owe their newfound relevance to Caitlin Clark are too busy fighting over money she helped generate. They're ready to throw away everything she built, just to prove a point. You want to know what's really tragic? Caitlin hasn't said a single negative thing through all of this. No cryptic posts, no digs at leadership, no diva behavior. She stayed classy, focused, and professional. Everything you'd want from the face of your league. She's in the gym working, smiling with fans, doing her job, while the people above her burn her momentum to the ground. And when you step back, it's impossible not to see the irony. The WNBA spent decades begging for someone like Caitlin Clark, a transcendent player who could bridge the gap between women's sports and mainstream culture. They finally got her, and now they're on the verge of losing her because they can't stop infighting long enough to realize what she's worth. This isn't just a labor dispute, it's an identity crisis. The league is about to find out whether it's strong enough to survive without the one player who made it relevant again. Because if the 2026 season doesn't happen, it's not just games that disappear. It's momentum, sponsorships, broadcast deals, and trust. The casual fans who showed up for Caitlin aren't sticking around to watch boardroom politics. They'll walk. And once they're gone, good luck ever getting them back. I still stand there, but I believe there's some low-down dirty stuff going on, and unfortunately, it is going to affect Caitlin Clark in the 2026 WNBA season because they are not going to come to an agreement on extending the deadline. It is good as done. Even now, people are calling for Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's head. And honestly, they have a point. Engelbert had one job: protect the league's stability and build on its newfound success. Instead, she let it descend into chaos. The WNBA spent 2 decades fighting for visibility, and just when the world finally started paying attention, Engelbert and her players' union are fumbling the biggest moment in women's sports history. And here's the reality: the players' leverage that they're so proud of, the funding, the new leagues, the international offers, that leverage only exists because of Caitlin Clark. None of these sponsors, investors, or TV networks cared before she showed up. The only reason Unrivaled got funded, the only reason Project B got coverage, the only reason women's basketball became a market worth fighting over, is because Caitlin Clark turned it into one. And now, if she doesn't play in 2026, all that attention will dry up. Those investors will move on to the next trend. The casual fans will find something else to watch. And the so-called power players of the WNBA will be left standing in an empty gym, wondering how they managed to destroy the very thing they claim to be fighting for. That's the heartbreaking truth. Caitlin Clark built the fire. The WNBA lit the match. And unless someone steps up fast, they're about to burn the whole thing down.